Good morning, everybody. Welcome, and this is our entrepreneurial lesson 1-2. We're talking about the nature of entrepreneurship. This particular lesson, we are talking about the entrepreneurial process, and it is part 1. So let's go ahead and get started. So first off, have you heard of Sarah Blakely? This is Sarah, by the way. Well, she is an investor on the show Shark Tank, and this is her story. She's a former Disney greeter and a fax machine sales rep. At age 27, she noticed that there was a void in the marketplace, something flattering for women to wear under white slacks. So she began researching a hosiery concept and invested $5,000, all her savings, to start a company she called Spanx. In 2006, Oprah promoted Spanx as one of her favorite things. Now, Sarah today is a billionaire, and Spanx generates hundreds of millions of dollars in annual revenue. So that's just an example of kind of the steps or stages in the entrepreneurial process. And so that's what we're going to talk about in this lesson primarily. So these are stages to the entrepreneurial process. There is discovery, there is the business plan, resourcing, running the business, and harvesting. And we're going to talk about each one of these individually, starting with discovery, of course. So, discovery is the process of systematically scanning for technological, political, regulatory, social, and demographic changes to discover opportunities to produce new goods and services. Now, there are some steps to the discovery process. So, one is for you to constantly study and inspect the market. Next is to challenge the status quo. Now, what does it mean to challenge the status quo? Well, you need to ask questions like, why does it have to be that way? Or what if we do something different? What if it was done differently? Then you look, once you have kind of asked those questions, you look to solve the problem. You'll also look for voids or gaps in the marketplace and where certain parts of the market that are underserved. In other words, that don't have those benefits or those topics, products, services. And then you look for ways to improve upon an existing product or service, or even imagine a whole new way of doing things. So here's some examples of a void or a gap in the marketplace. Fast food restaurants. Who knew we even needed them until they appeared? Drive-throughs were invented. Who knew we even needed them until they appeared? Now, what about any other examples? Can you think of any others that we didn't realize we needed until they were actually introduced? Well, here's one for you. Steve Jobs said, "Our job is to figure out what consumers are going to want before they do. People don't know what they want until you show it to them. Our task is to read things that are not yet on the page." Think about that. We as consumers didn't even know we needed or wanted iPhones or smartphones until Steve Jobs introduced them to us. Now, when there are inefficiencies in the market exist, this is where entrepreneurs can really flourish because they study how customers behave and identify their preferences. They identify current trends. They can conduct or gain access to market surveys. They can identify a hobby that you might be able to turn into a business. And you can identify changes in politics, demographics, social norms, tax changes, immigration, and language that might need a new solution. As entrepreneurs, it's our job to kind of figure out what people want and what they need. The discovery stage is where you determine if your idea meets a want or a need in the marketplace. Some ideas leave a long lasting legacy by literally changing society, like when the Wright brothers invented the airplane, or, and again, an example of Steve Jobs when he introduced the iPhone. Now, there are 3 features that are needed for an idea to become an opportunity. One is the market. Is there a market for my idea? Are there people out there who are interested in purchasing or interested at all in the idea that I have? Margin. Can I sell this product or this service for more than it costs to produce and provide? And third, mission. Is it worthwhile? Will it benefit society as a whole? Now, the second stage in the entrepreneurial process is a business plan, or also called a pitch deck. So, what is a business plan? Well, it is a roadmap of your business's goals and objectives, and the strategy and details of how those goals and objectives will be achieved. The third stage is resourcing. Resourcing is gathering together all the necessary elements needed to start your business. It's also called the third stage of the entrepreneurial process. So when it comes to obtaining resources, you can do it in a couple of different ways. One is by bootstrapping. This is being creative by learning to work effectively with limited resources. Or you can seek capital. This is where grants, loans, investors, pitch contests, or any other way to generate funding to start your venture. Fourth stage is running the business, actually running the business. This is your grand opening. This is where you start operating your business, where you open your doors, you fire up your website, and offer your solution to potential customers. Your solution to potential customers. Fifth stage is harvesting. Now, harvesting, which is the fifth stage, is where you evaluate if your company is a success or is it a failure? Or does it need more time to prove itself? Think about this question. What percentage of small businesses in the US survive their first year? Well, 20% of US small businesses fail within their first year. 50% of US small businesses fail after their first 5 years. Now, if you want your business to be successful, can it stay successful? Can it grow and continue to add value to customers, to its stakeholders, to society? Are there new products that you can add, enhancements to your existing products? This is your innovate. This is where you can innovate and add things to your product. What's your 3-year plan? What's your 10-year plan? Where are you going to take your business in the future? And will the company be sold in the future? Will you sell it to somebody else? Or will you acquire other businesses? And of course, at this stage, you have reached some level of success. So, of course, take a moment to celebrate. Yay, you did it. You've got your business up and running. So, quick review of the entrepreneurial process, the steps and the stages. There's discovery, there's your business plan, there's resourcing, there's running the business, and then there's harvesting. So, that is our lesson 1-2 on the nature of entrepreneurship and in particular the entrepreneurial process. And this is part 1. We'll get to part 2 at another time.